Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rag Company Podcast. I'm Dane Hennen. To my left, Levi Gates.
What's up, guys?
Kitty Corner, Anthony Fisher.
Hey.
Below, Morgan McMurry.
Hello.
And then we've got a couple guests today, and those guests are Atinder and Marissa from ExoShield. So nice to have you guys here. Yay! All right.
Party.
So let's go ahead and get some background on you guys real quick. Just a quick intro, little baby bio from each one of you, starting with Atinder and then Marissa. Let's hear a little introduction for the audience at home.
All right. So I've been with ExoShield for about 3 years. I manage our Canadian partner network and also our international distribution network. ExoShield has been probably one of the biggest parts of my life for the last 3 years. I joined the company when they were just about ready to launch the product in market. And my job description was, here's what we got, figure out how to sell it, and don't kill yourself. So I'm still here 3 years later. It's been a crazy ride. We've been growing tremendously since then. But yeah, before that, I was in car sales, worked with Genesis and Hyundai here locally in Mississauga, and always just had a career in sales, totally by accident, but it's been a great ride so far.
Nice. Thanks, Atinder.
Nice,
And Marissa?
yeah.
So I've been with ExoShield now for about 2.5 years. I started with them being a business development representative. So basically what I would do is I would call leads, find them, call them, and then set up appointments for Atinder to visit them in person. I apparently suck at Google Mapping and sent Atinder on a lot of very long, very boring, very awful drives.
Nice.
Eventually, in August of 2018, so I started in January of 2018, and then in August of 2018, I started, I took over the US sales network, and then I manage all of the USA. So that's been really cool. I love what I do. It's a lot sometimes, but ExoShield really is like a family. Everybody is always there to support you, including Atinder, who listens to all of my ranting, which is fantastic. And then before ExoShield, I used to sell cell phones. So I managed for 5, almost 6 years, and then sold them for 7. And I'm very happy to not be doing that anymore.
Yeah,
Good.
no,
That's
definitely some nice progression there from both you guys. So no, that's great. And we met both you guys in different years at the Serum Summit. So that was kind of a fun way to get to know you guys in ExoShield. But, wanted to ask some questions and just, this is fun. This is a DETALKSCAST. It's just kind of meant to be a get to know the person and share it with the audience kind of thing. So, I guess as far as ExoShield goes, what do you guys want to kind of explain what that is to folks at home so they kind of have a better idea of what it is and how it works?
Sure.
Sorry, I can pass it off to one of you guys here. Tinder, you want to take it?
All right. So ExoShield is essentially a film that goes on your windshield to prevent stone chips. So just like how you put a film on your phone screen protector to prevent it from breaking, your ExoShield does the same for your windshield, and it also gives you 99% UV protection, so the interior of your car is a little more comfortable in terms of the aging and the protection for the passengers in it. But the main benefit is saving your windshield from breaking. With today, all the technology that's behind your windshields, the cost of the windshields are increasing rapidly. We're seeing anywhere from even your entry-level vehicles today that have like $200-300 payment. Their windshields can cost up to $800 to replace, and that's because of all the sensors that are built in behind the windshield. And our goal really is to preserve that initial windshield, the OEM windshield, and keep that in as long as possible and prevent you from having the headache of having to replace it and get those sensors recalibrated.
No, that makes perfect sense. And so I'm imagining, so it's like a film. It's probably a little bit thicker than your average film, I would imagine. But of course, to work on a windshield, it's got to be, have optical quality so you can actually see through it. Kind of important. So would you mind explaining a little more like how that part works?
Sure. So once the film is installed onto your windshield, you don't even notice that it's there. If you compare it to, like, let's say a window tint, most people, let's say they get a 35% tint on their side windows. ExoShield would be compared at 90%. And in most cases, it's actually more clear than your windshield. Typically, the VLT in a windshield is somewhere between 70 to 80%, and ExoShield is 90. So don't even notice it's there.
Okay. No, excellent. And of course, you're absolutely right. With all the cars on the road today, there's so many like automatic government mandated sensors and stuff like that. Subaru with their eyesight, Mercedes has all kinds of stuff. Just everything tucked in where your rear view mirror used to be, and now everything's kind of attached to the windshield essentially. So by replacing that, you have to deal with everything behind that too. So
Exactly.
that's where the cost really comes from. It's not just the glass anymore.
Yeah.
It's
And the glass is getting more complicated
attached to it
as well.
Well, and they treat the glass and stuff like that too, so you deal with that. But yeah, go ahead, Levi.
I was just gonna say, Anthony, you went on a drive this weekend.
I could have used some, huh?
And there's a bunch of people that could have used some of that ExoShield and that run you did with all those folks.
Yeah. Well, so before that, so I found a buddy of mine. I think it was on Friday night. I was talking to him. He had just picked up a G-Wagon Squared. It was a all the kind of matte black color. It's a kind of a special edition, and Drake at Lupo ended up acquiring that for him. He had it for 24 hours. He was driving through his neighborhood, and he lives in obviously a very nice neighborhood. And there was a couple kids that were, kind of looking at his car and then laughing. And he was like, "Why are they laughing?" And 2 seconds later, a giant rock was thrown and hit his windshield. And it hit his windshield, it hit his carbon diffuser thing up on the top there, and then the rock rolled and dented the hood.
Oh, boy.
And so what was funny is that he was like, yeah, well, while yes, the hood is expensive and the paint is going to be expensive to get that resprayed. And he's like, yeah, my little carbon thing was pretty expensive as well. But that windshield was hands down one of the most expensive things on that vehicle. And he said that after doing an insurance quote for everything, it came out to $17,000 of damage from one rock. And
holy
he said that,
hell.
Rock?
Yeah. Yep. And he said that basically like the carbon fiber thing on the top of the little diffuser thing, he said that's just a piece that can be just taken off and replaced, and that's like $7,000. But he said that the windshield itself was roughly, I think, $5,000 or $6,000 is what it was. And basically, he found the kids. He found their parents and talked to them, and they were kind of joking around. Well, the mom of the kid said that, called her husband and said, hey, our son just threw this rock at this G-Wagon or at this vehicle, and blah, blah, blah. The husband gets on the phone and says, hey, so my wife just told me that my kid threw a rock at your Jeep. We'll get that windshield replaced. No problem. And he's like, whoa. This is not a Jeep. This is a G-Wagon. And the guy's like, well, how much do you think this is going to cost? And he's like, well, how much insurance do you have, basically? And so, but I think that, what was
there's
funny
no way
is
he was ready for that.
The initial impact was on the windshield, and how big this rock was, I don't know, but I would imagine that the ExoShield would have been a lot more protection than obviously nothing at all. And so, kind of a crappy situation there, but that's just another example of very expensive windshields that you wouldn't really even think about otherwise. And due to, like Dane said, all the sensors and, and how that window is naturally tinted from the factory, has a different kind of hue to it. But back to what Levi was saying, I did go on a drive up in the mountains this weekend, and it was me and 20 other cars, and all these other cars.
Slide over just a little
the ones
bit
behind him right now,
Atinder
actually.
And Marissa can see. You just slide over. It's a picture Anthony took of all the cars he was out with.
Yeah. So there was a couple Porsches there, a GT4, there was a Lamborghini, there was 3 GTRs, There was, all these nice cars, and the road that we chose to drive on wasn't necessarily ideal. And all of us pretty much ended up with rock chips in one way or another, whether it was on our paint. But most of our windshields got pretty hammered. I know mine have a bunch of just little nicks all over the place, nothing super deep. But unfortunately, the 2020 Supra that was out there with us got a chip, and that chip, after the sun hit it, turned into a crack going vertical all the way from the top to the bottom. And it was funny because after the drive, she had told everybody that her windshield had cracked. And somebody said, well, maybe you should put some type of, tint on it or protective film. And she had no idea. She's like, well, what would I use? And then fortunately, a guy named Steve Warren, who is wanting to become an installer here in Boise, chimed
Steve's
in
good.
And said that he was wanting to start carrying ExoShield so he can start offering that protection, because you just never really know when a rock is going to destroy your windshield. I mean, by the time it hits, that's when you're like, crap. And it could be coming from another lane. It could be coming from an opposing lane. It could be coming, out of the sky, like a freak of nature situation. But yeah, having a windshield replaced is no fun, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're having your windshield replaced, that whole entire front assembly area, all your moldings are coming off, all your drip moldings, all of your rubber moldings. And those clips break just by looking at them. And it's never going to be perfect OEM again. It'll never have that perfect fit.
To take it one more step, that I've got that beautiful 2006 Hyundai Elantra high performance machine. That car, I purchased that car brand new in 2006. It's got 142,000 miles on it. It's had 5 windshields put in it over the course since 06. 3 windows I put in about 2 or 3 months apart, because my wife and I would use that to run down to Utah and down to Salt Lake to visit her family. And it never failed that we would get a few rock chips, especially when we do winter trips.
Well, there's rocks on that road.
Those rocks would hit it, they'd break it, and then you're using your defroster, you're using your heaters, you're hitting pressure with cold air. The window would just crack. So then you'd be like, oh crap, we'll just leave it broken until springtime, and then we'll change it out. And we just use our tax return and swap out the windshield because they were cheap. But it was the frustrating fact that now, today, after 5 years or 5 windows, I have trim that is broken because those guys pull all that off. You can see the extra glue, you can see the cuts in the rubber moldings around it where the factory molding they've cut because they stuck their knife in to dig it all out after so many times. Also, I believe the excess of popping that glass in and out of the vehicle so many times has caused some structural flexing because my dashboard cracked.
Yeah.
My dashboard I always had a visor tint on it, and the car, was parked in parking lots and things like that over the course of its 14 years that we've owned it. But it was that car has had every known dash protectant available over the last 14 years. And it suffered a massive crack down the center of it. And I think that was just from stress, from popping that glass in and out so many times to replace it. So just the sheer fact of being able to limit the times that you're able, if you put ExoShield on, and that is able to protect that glass, and you're just going to have to replace the ExoShield every few years or 5 years or whatever the lifespan is for you guys. That in and of itself can save tons of money. I had a homie hookup with a glass guy who'd come out and swap them out for me for almost nothing. I usually would trade him a detail, but if I had an ExoShield person that I could do a homie hookup and trade with, I'd just do that, because then I wouldn't have to pull the glass. So
and your dashboard probably wouldn't have cracked, and you wouldn't have to worry about any other warping.
Right.
And there's a number of
that are
things.
Busted, and it's just the amount of wear and tear on the vehicle.
We have one of our colleagues on the team. He had his windshield replaced, and I guess the caulking around it, the adhesive wasn't done the best. And when it rains or snows hard enough, he actually has like water just like casually dripping inside
Oh,
no, that's not good.
Which then
Yeah.
can get into spots that it's not supposed to go into,
Yeah.
and you get all the weird rust issues that some people have.
So to that point, so what kind of resistance, impact resistance? I know you guys are probably doing lots of testing. What kind of impact resistance would somebody be able to expect from like ExoShield in terms of, rocks and chips and things like that?
So that's kind of a hard question to answer because it depends on what kind of, like how big the rock is, at what angle it's hitting the windshield.
What the angle of the windshield is.
How big the windshield is.
G-Wagon wouldn't stand a chance, but
No.
Oh, for sure. It's the windshield's basically straight up and down. When we've done impact testing, we test with 3/8 steel ball bearings going 86 miles per hour, and we've had really good success with that. If we look at statistics, ExoShield reduces breakage as much as 70%. So that's pretty much like the best explanation that we can give about the impact resistance of it. On the thickness comment, ExoShield is 5 mil, which is nanomillimeters. And like Atinder said, you can't even tell it's on a windshield when it's installed. It's super optically clear. It's actually the most optically clear windshield protection film on the market, as well as the most durable, best warranty, etc. But a lot of people have been really happy with it. We've got a lot of success stories. There's definitely a reason why we're number one in North America for sure.
Yeah. So what kind of, because I saw, we've seen the installation process a couple of years in a row now over at the Serum Summit. Is this something that, so let's just say a detailing shop is watching that also does PPF, or maybe a detailing shop that wants to offer this as a service, how hard is it to get into installing this, and what would be the skill level needed to install ExoShield? So,
honestly, I think that it's something that anybody can learn. We do have some really awesome training options. So obviously when the world gets back to normal, we do have a really kick-ass in-person training program. It's super, super comprehensive. 2 days of training, 8 hours a day, and we have small class sizes. So we do a maximum of 4 trainees. And then we also make sure that everybody gets their own card to train on. We just recently launched ExoShield Academy. So basically, we saw a bit of a hole in our partner support programs because not everybody either wants to do in-person training or really needs in-person training. If people have a really extensive background or even just a background in window tint, ExoShield is a very similar process for installation. So we were originally going to release it in another 6 weeks, so probably towards the beginning of June. But with everything that's been happening, we actually bumped that timeline up 6 weeks, and we just launched it on the 14th.
Nice.
So we have online training for our partners. It's a really awesome module-based course setup. There's little quizzes that are involved in it. And I think Atinder can talk about, I've already had one partner that's never been installed ExoShield ever in their lives be able to do an install on a BMW, which is kind of an easier windshield, but it's still a really great success story. And I think Atinder has a few as well of people that have, jumped on this training and been able to do a great first ExoShield installation.
Just to get back to Levi's question there around offering as another service for, let's say, a detailer or someone just PPF or window tint. ExoShield is a great complementary product to offer to a car that's already going to be there. If you're doing a lot of, say, a full paint correction, that car is going to be there for 2 days. You have enough time to sneak in an ExoShield there without having to even find a new customer. And then through the training program, that's very possible to get trained. Anyone can get trained. It's a DIY approach. When you have time, you can sit there, go through module by module. And we've seen a lot of success with people who do detailing work and paint protection film and then start to offer ExoShield because it just goes with the theme of their business of the protection services. And I know there's a lot of people who do like coatings for the windshield. And there's always like, okay, how does this compare to coating your windshield versus putting ExoShield onto the windshield? That is a service a lot of shops offer for protecting it in terms of your hydrophobicity and giving it those effects. Yes, a coating will give you that. But there's no coating we've come across yet that can actually provide rock chip protection. But the two products can definitely also be offered together in terms of providing a coating over ExoShield for that added effect as well.
Well, at that point, it just becomes the surface of the windshield. So
Exactly.
then you treat it just like you would.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, the thing is I think windshield coatings are cool. I do think they're cool. I think that they are extremely difficult to install, mainly for the fact that, people see streaks, right? People see, wipe marks and things like that, especially when it's on your front windshield. And we've all chased streaks on the insides and outsides of our cars, especially when it comes to the glass. But like when you're applying a coating, if you put a streak in that coating when you're applying it and it cures completely, most of the time you're going to have to polish or compound out that windshield again just to have to reinstall that coating and get it to where it's a universal look. And it can be very time consuming. I think that G-Technic makes a good windshield coating. I think there's a few others out there. But one of the first versions of OptiGlass, for example, that was by Optimum, you had to do that in the right kind of lighting. You had to do that in the right temperature. You kind of had to do it. There's a few different variables there to where if that left a streak in there, it's a complete pain to remove that.
It felt like you were putting liquid. You were. It was like it was literally felt like you were pouring liquid glass on there. And if you left a high spot, it was now part of the glass, and you were very surprised when you had that. It gave
the
it
wipers probably don't like that at all.
Yeah.
No. It's not. Yeah, it's not a good look. And just glass is. It's just a pain in the ass. Everybody, for the most part, hates doing windows and hates doing cleaning glass because there is a level of perfection there that you can achieve. But most people, especially when you're doing a paint coating or a paint correction, you've spent all this time polishing out this paint. You spent so many times wiping, left to right, and then you have to finish out the glass. That's going to be the number one thing that you have to pretty much end on. And at that point, you're so exhausted and you're so tired that the last thing you want to do is apply a coating and screw that up, because now you're leaning over the vehicle that you've just polished, right? And now you're repolishing out the glass again. And there's a lot of other variables there that can affect your work that you've already put so much time into.
When ExoShield, our primary our core function is manufacturing nanocoatings. Actually, that's what the business started out as. So ExoShield actually comes with a coating on top for the durability of the windshield, for the wipers. Sorry, not the windshield, for the durability against the wipers. And it's actually, who is it? I think it was Eric at G-Technique who's told me this. He said the wiper behavior is very nice. That was my first talk, detailer talk I ever heard. I'm like, what do you mean wiper behavior?
No, these wipers are very well behaved. It's almost like their parents told them no once in a while, huh?
Yeah, no, it's because certain coatings change the surface tension of the glass. Yeah. Which the wipers and the rubber on the wipers and the way the wipers are angled on the glass and the way they're designed, when the manufacturers spec all that, they don't spec it for an even slicker surface.
Yeah.
And so what'll happen is you get chatter, and the wipers will just dance across the glass, and you'll change out blades, you'll do all kinds of different stuff to try and get back to that factory, just clean one wipe, removes all the water, rather than having chatter and streaking and all that kind of issue. And that's always been the biggest problem with coatings, is you coat your windshield and your wipers, you don't have water, sitting on the glass, it just comes off. But your wipers also they aren't as effective because they can't actually remove that water, because they're just kind of sliding over the surface. So that's one of the things, is that wiper behavior is a big reason. And a lot of customers have gotten that, or detailers have put a coating on a glass and then experienced that, had to deal with that, especially in a very rainy situation, and go like, man, it's almost not worth putting the coating on if the wipers aren't able to work, period. Yeah. And because all of us still want to be able to turn our wipers on. And so that's one thing we notice, specifically when we're trying different sealants and stuff like that is we've put it on glass on the front windshield just to see how things react. And when we were in Atlanta for this last Serum Summit, we did that on our minivan. We used our Wowo's crystal sealant on the glass, and that was one of the things we were waiting for. Was like, well, let's see what happens in that torrential downpour, how the glass, how the wipers work, and it worked fine. But it was, we were very excited about that. We were like, holy crap, that worked for a sealant, because that would have been, something we wouldn't be able to tout or sell to somebody. Is we would have to then say, hey, don't put it on your front windshield if you don't like it. Like,
because someone will always screw something
then
up
we'll
somehow.
Get that and go, man, I sprayed it on my front windshield. Now my wipers don't even, they just don't even do their job. And so it is funny that something simple like wiper behavior is now a legitimate thing, but it's because of the number of bad window coatings we've all had in the industry.
Yeah.
So kudos to you guys for having good wiper behavior.
I guess another question I have would be, so for installing the actual ExoShield, are you basically taking a bulk roll and then just forming it to the window and then cutting around it? Are these pre-cut templates? How does it work in terms of that install?
So ExoShield is sold by the roll. Our rolls are 48 inches top to bottom and then 102 feet long. It is currently a hand cut, like custom molded, process. So it's like hand cutting window tint. Obviously it's a little bit thicker, but same process. We are eventually going to work on like pre-cut or like having, like plotter patterns to cut it out. But the thing with ExoShield is it's nice to be able to have a little bit of excess film, depending on the vehicle, but sometimes at the top and the bottom. Because when you're installing it, and especially once you're getting used to it or while you're getting used to it, when you're heat shrinking it and installing it, if you do, burn a little section or make a mistake, you can always just like move it and keep going. But obviously for, the people that are really great at installing ExoShield, we know it's needed. So it's definitely something we're looking at.
What kind of is there a slip solution you guys use? Are you guys using alcohol to tack it down? What kind of solutions are you using to apply it when you guys are squeegeeing it out?
It's just a slip solution of like Dawn dish soap and water or baby shampoo or tint slime or Fusion or whatever people use. Do not recommend using alcohol with our film. It can, just like I think window tint is the same, it can mess up the adhesive. You can use alcohol to clean the windshield, but definitely not recommended in the slip solution.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, what kind of squeegee are you guys using? Just a traditional squeegee? Are you using like a felt-sided squeegee or like a rubber? What's the safest for the ExoShield?
So I'm going to let Atinder take this one because he's way better at explaining this than I am.
There's like a bunch of tools that you can use to install ExoShield. There's different squeegees. There's most of the stuff you use for paint protection film and window tint is applicable. We do have detailed tool lists that we provide to everybody, and they're pretty much readily available through any of your local distributors or even online. Even Amazon carries most of the tools you would need. And if you're Prime, you have it the next day. But in terms of the process, like it's essentially you're cleaning the windshield. You're taking a bulk piece off of the roll. You're forming it to the windshield with heat. That's probably the most technical part of the process is getting that flat piece of film to curve around the windshield. That's where the heating of the film is necessary. And then again, cleaning the windshield, making sure that surface is as contamination free as possible, and then applying ExoShield at the end. Typically, the whole process should take anywhere from an hour to an hour and 45 minutes, just depending on what vehicle you're working on. Every vehicle has different degree of difficulty in terms of installation time, just like when you guys are detailing cars. Some bumpers have some crazy parts you got to get into, and that takes so much more time. Same thing with the windshield.
Yeah. Okay. So another question would be, So in terms of like, is it similar to PPF in which it has kind of some self-healing properties to it? So if you were to scuff your windshield or if something were to happen, if you were to take heat, could you take heat to kind of remove those defects if needed?
So our film doesn't have self-healing properties like PPF, but the reason for that we can make it with those properties, but what that does is it makes the top coat of the film a lot softer, because for it to self-heal, the top coating has to be softer. So with the windshield wipers and the environment the windshield's in, for a longer lasting product, it's just not beneficial to have that self-healing property. And it also interferes with the clarity of the product. We would love to have a film that you could put on, there's something happens to it and morphs back to its original form, but maybe one day.
No, it makes perfect sense, because you do run into that where you don't want to sacrifice the product's intended goal just for the sake of, this kind of aesthetic detail, like on body panels and stuff. I totally get it. But when you're dealing with an optical surface, something you're going to be looking through all the time, it's more important that it doesn't get damaged. So yeah, no,
it's kind of like your last statement, Dane. It don't get damaged.
It don't get damaged. Okay. No, but when it comes to like putting coatings on paint and stuff like that, putting a coating on the glass and everything, even though it's a different substrate, all that, it's still kind of a similar procedure where, okay, why do you put PPF on a car instead of a coating? I mean, you can do both, but why would you do one versus the other? Well, it's the same reason for the windshield. You guys are doing this. I mean, you could put the coating on there and sure, you get the hydrophobics, but when a rock comes flying at it, which would you rather have in between your glass and what's coming at it? I mean, I'd rather have the film.
You think about it's going to be getting more and more prolific, because
if
you think about our own personal devices and how many of us have screen protectors on them, and how that's almost required now. When you buy a phone, is you're I need a case and I need a screen.
You're an irresponsible phone owner if you don't.
Yeah, and it's like,
how many cracked screens have I seen?
Well, case in point, I have a 5-year-old who has a cell phone solely for the fact that it's for his pump and his glucose monitor. But we ordered a case for him. And I got a military grade rubber, OtterBox basically for him. And I had to wait for it to arrive. And there was like one day on Amazon that it was literally scheduled to be there. And my son wanted to see the phone. And I was like, okay, here's how we're going to do this. And he uses it as a camera mostly. But first thing he does when he holds it, drops it on the ground, breaks the screen.
Oh, man.
Didn't waste any time.
And I had the screen protector right there next to me, and I just hadn't put it on because I was like, I'll just do them both tomorrow. But it's getting to that point where it's frustrating, it's expensive, and it's not worth the hassle. And so as more and more technology is into these vehicles, like you said, Atinder, there's cheap cars now that are loaded with technology. I mean, just absolutely insane. It's going to get to a point, and I'm sure this has happened to many customers that have bought a car brand new off the lot. Within the first month, they get a rock chip.
For sure.
And it cracks. Yeah. It's depending on the temperature and the time of the year. I know that's frustrating to a lot of people. And it'll get to a point where it's going to be just like our cell phones, where that's just something you do, period, to save you a little end of time. And it was like that with PPF, and it was like that with coatings. But, 7-8 years ago when I was installing coatings, I was the first guy in our state to do it. And I didn't know how I was going to sell it. I was like, no one's going to need this. Is a luxury item. This is going to be something that now I go through my local feed of just detailer. I know detailers. Everybody's running coating specials. And it's funny now that that's just how it goes. And I detail cars in my driveway, and people are driving by going, hey, do you do coatings? Like, well, I do have some. Yeah, I can take care. Like, I didn't think
have thought.
7 years ago when I was trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how am I going to sell this to people in their daily driver? Who's going to spend this money on this? And now I'm getting stopped while I'm washing my wife's car in the driveway. And people are asking me, hey, do you do coatings too? Well, yeah, I can. Like, it's going to get that way. And, I think it's, especially as the time changes. So I'm excited for this because, like, honestly, like, my first time seeing it was the first Serum Summit when we met you, and I got to see what we were doing. And I was like, well, that's kind of a neat feature. And then getting to spend time with Marissa at the second one and actually, like, dig a little deeper, it was like, this stuff's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One thing we always tell our partners is that, yes, you have these detailing products, you have coatings, you have paint protection film, and they're big markets for the product. And it's a lot of people who want to protect their vehicles and keep them looking as, like, pristine as possible. One thing that ExoShield really gives you is that new type of customer who just doesn't want the headache. And then maybe when they figure out that, like, hey, okay, I can protect the rest of my car and make it look a lot better than what it is now. That's another way to get them in there. Because the person who's driving a lot and the same person who's going through 3 windshields a year because they have a plumbing business, they'll ultimately become interested in your other products as well. But the windshield is a big pain point for people, and it's a what do you call it? It's basically an ROI on, okay, my windshield's expensive, I should protect it, versus I just want it to look nice.
Yeah. Well,
No.
and
Oh, go ahead.
especially for some of those businesses where they're mobile. The vehicle is also their mobile billboard. The last thing they want is rolling up in having a big cracked windshield. Because I've had electricians, I've had plumbers, I've had guys roll up and they drive. I mean, they put hundreds of thousands of miles on these vehicles, handling all the different areas and places, and so it just becomes part of the, I don't know, if you're running your mobile rig as a business, as like your location. It's like, hey, we're gonna put a new coat of paint on the building, or we need to get some new flooring or lighting. It's basically now that is going to be a structure for those companies as well.
Exactly.
Well, if you're not taking care of your own equipment, why am I expecting you to take care of what I hired you to do? If you run into someone who's like a mobile chip repair and he's got a huge crack in his windshield, I'll wait for the next guy. But just, that kind of situation. But I did have a question for you guys. I just knowing, because obviously big impacts, that's kind of what sells people on the idea of it. But to me, just because of the cars I've owned, I've noticed probably more than anything else, just like sandblasting, micro, very small kinds of impacts over an extended period of time that eventually render your windshield just kind of salt and peppery, speckly. And obviously where Anthony was driving this last weekend is exactly the kind of environment that invites a lot of that very quickly. But anybody who's doing any kind of long commuting is going to run into sandblasting over time. And that's something
Dane,
that I'd be curious how it holds up.
Yeah, your mom used to drive quite a bit up to Sun Valley, and that was a 3-hour drive.
She'd work at the hospital up there. Every few weeks it would be up there and then back down.
Yeah, and so she'd put a lot of miles on those roads, and that's a notorious feature. So
so I was just curious how it does with something like that.
Atinder,
different animals.
You guys' daily commutes into the location, into your guys' work.
Marissa, you there?
Yeah. So the question is like, how does ExoShield hold up to sandblasting, or
like how long before you start to notice the effects of just repeated sandblasting? Like in a normal environment, we don't have to go extreme like you're driving through the desert and the winds are blowing every day, but just something normal.
So our life expectancy for ExoShield on a daily driver is about 2 years. Obviously, if people are taking really good care of their vehicles, parking them in the garage, taking care of their wiper blades, they could see longer than that. But 2 years we think is a pretty fair number to say. People also always ask this question: if they can install ExoShield over a windshield that's sandblasted. You can, but it's not going to make it look any better.
No, it's just going to lock in what's already there.
Yeah. We definitely don't recommend installing it on a windshield that is chipped or cracked. Obviously, you guys have mentioned it. Heating it up, cooling it down with the heat gun that you use to install it could make it worse. So in a perfect world, we are preventative instead of reactive, and we're getting onto windshields that are as new as possible. And that's basically our goal. Atinder touched on it too, is we want to protect OEM windshields.
Yeah. So you're dealing with essentially new vehicles just being sold, and you want to protect them there on the spot, or vehicles that recently had a windshield replaced and the damage hasn't really started to occur again yet.
Yeah.
So that's the core market for installers who want to do this.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense.
If your windshield's in decent shape, you can put it on. If there's small little like divots in the windshield, some of them the adhesive will fill in and they might even go away. But if there's something major that's like, you can see like a good size like white mark in your windshield already, it's not gonna look any better.
Right.
And then just back to your sandblasting question. So that peppering ExoShield would be able to withstand that. And that's like, I drive 150 kilometers a day when I commute to the office. Sorry, that's probably, you guys can do the math and figure out the miles on that one.
Oh, it's okay. I got it.
It's about 2 hours of driving on the highway.
Yeah.
And the ExoShield lasts through all that, like constant sandblasting from like the trucks driving in front of you, the construction, all that nonsense everyone hates when they're commuting to work every day. And then 2 years later, you take that off, put it on, you still have your nice pristine windshield and you're good to go. And the great part really is that like when your windshield gets sandblasted, it's annoying to look out of because of the light.
Oh yeah, the light catches it just right, and you just see like, Starry Night playing out in front of you.
Yeah. So you replace ExoShield and you get back to that first day you had that car feel.
Now that's really appealing to me right away, because man, my Miata was the worst. It was just trying to look through like a screen window.
Sounds like Dane needs that on his Jag.
Well, yeah, that car I would not want to replace the windshield on. So, phew.
Which Jag did you get, Dane?
It's the one behind me, actually. That's mine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2011 XKR. Found a good deal. So,
lowered. It's got big wheels on it. It's supercharged.
It's fun car.
Just a little under 550.
Yeah,
550 horsepower.
So naturally, I took it up the mountain and put it in the snow. Yeah.
The rear wheel drive or?
Yeah, it's rear wheel drive. So I waited until most of the snow was off the road. I just thought it'd be fun to get pictures. But cool. No, that's the kind of car I'd want to make sure I protect the windshield on. But yeah, I mean, new cars makes perfect sense.
I'd put it on if we had an installer here, I would have put it on every single car that I own. Just because like, and I've said this like before, like I coated all my cars inside and out whenever I got one, because of the fact that it made it easier to resell it.
Yeah.
Especially with kids, they tear everything up and they destroy everything. And I always wanted to be able to, take the vehicle back. When I went to get something else, I'm giving them back a vehicle that is hopefully in better condition than the day I bought it. And that helps me resell the vehicle much easier, much simpler. And that was always my reasoning for it. So same thing with ExoShield. You're putting something on the surface of a vehicle to protect it, so that if in the event where you want to resell it or get rid of it, you're giving them a car that's literally better than or has been locked in a time capsule, basically.
Yeah, when I used to sell cars there, even if you go through your insurance or you go through one of the companies that deals with your insurance to get your glass replaced, they automatically hit your like Carfax or CarProof. And if someone's buying that car, it's going to say there like the glass was replaced. And depending on how OCD that new owner is, they might go on to the next one.
Yeah. It's
that can definitely make a difference.
Well, it's definitely interesting just to see how, what else, are there any things that you guys are looking at that maybe you see some faults in the market that you're trying to rectify or fix within the glass industry, or other than maybe making your product better? Obviously, we can always improve and increase different things. But are there other stuff that maybe you see that maybe the market hasn't quite figured out or established or works towards?
I mean, the whole windshield replacement industry right now, and the automotive glass replacement industry, is scrambling to figure out how to efficiently and quickly replace windshields. Because previously, you'd break a windshield, you can even get them to show up to your house and they'd be done in an hour, and you can have your car. Now, when you break your windshield, you have to take it into a shop. Sometimes you can only go back to the dealership just because of the complexity of the sensors behind there.
Yeah.
And the windshield comes off, the sensors are checked, and then when that new windshield has gone on, they have to recalibrate those sensors, and that can take up to 2 to 3 hours. In some cases, they actually have to drive 10 kilometers in your
to reset
car
everything. Yeah,
to make sure everything's functioning properly. And I think it was the Volvos or the Subarus. One of them, they actually have to do a wheel alignment to make sure the sensors are functioning properly and nothing. If something is off 1 degree in your lane sensing, or
your lane avoidance and lane
calculations are all wrong.
Yeah.
If one degree is off, that thing can malfunction. And if you have, let's say, emergency braking on your vehicle, and it slams that on at the wrong time, it could be scary. Accident for no reason.
I didn't even
could cause an
think
accident
about
instead of
that.
preventing one.
Yeah. So then, like the glass, they're trying to figure out how to do it effectively. We're trying to show the glass segment of the market that, hey, you can add this service to your portfolio instead of investing $10,000-$15,000 in new calibration equipment. Maybe do that down the road.
Well, especially really, like from a dealership portion, whether it's, hey, as a dealership in a service department, we want the money. Yeah, we'd love to be able to service the vehicle and do all this stuff for you, but partner with an installer, still provide that commission for those service riders to sell, or those F&I guys and gals to sell this product for a, as they used to call it, a bird dog. So they'd get a little taste of the money, but they would be able to sell this to an installer and say, customers in there signing papers on their car, hey, did you want to do this? Put ExoShield on your windshield so that you don't have to deal with this down the road. All the dealership cares is that they're going to make a little bit of money off of it.
Exactly.
That's all they care at the end of it. Whether they're going to do the work or not, if they're going to make some money off of it, they'll be happy with it. And it makes sense to be able to offer that and be able to sell that, especially to say, like, I hate, because service departments have one thing that they absolutely hate doing all the time. And it may be something as simple as that, is the windshield replacement on that type of vehicle.
Typically, that's typically outsourced in a dealership anyway. Yeah. So they have to call someone. They might as well call someone to come protect it in the first place.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Makes perfect sense. Now, I had a question, just kind of a general idea. I know you guys have installers. I don't know how much data you really have on this, but I was curious. Do you have any data that suggests the types of vehicles that are getting this kind of treatment right now installs more than other vehicles? So to me, if I were to guess, I would assume high-end clients are going to be more likely to be the ones to fork out with a second thought, oh yeah, I'll just add that to the thing. But obviously economy cars are a good spot for this. But I'm picturing like where this really makes a lot of sense is vehicles with more upright windshields, trucks, that kind of thing, vans. So what kind of data do you guys have on that?
So right out of the gate, like our number one installed on brand is Porsche. Okay. Lots of 911s that get ExoShield installed, which is fantastic. I mean, they have expensive windshields. People really like to drive them. So that wasn't really too much of a surprise. Honestly, like it's really across the board. Like we've got, obviously the Jeeps and G-Wagons are very popular. Toyota is super popular with us as well. So RAV4s, Ford Raptors, Toyota Corollas and Camrys have expensive windshields now. Obviously Mercedes, BMW and Audi are super popular as well. I honestly can't think of a make of car that we don't have on our, like, we don't have data on.
So there's not really like an underlying trend where it all kind of skews one direction. It's pretty broad.
I could see the Porsches, like she said, because those drivers are more prolific in the sense that they do drive.
And those drivers tend to actually drive more too, their vehicles. Yeah. So
I could easily see, and the Porsche network has a great with the different clubs around the world.
They communicate very
clubs,
well.
They do, and they do tech talks with their owners groups and their clubs, and so the Porsche clubs of each area like to get together every once a month and do something where they learn about their cars. So I could easily see a Porsche group going, "Hey, don't know if you noticed, but the windshield because one guy, it only takes one of those folks to go, hey, we just had to replace our windshield, and it was this much money. Did you know that?" And then have somebody else at the next meeting go, "Well, actually, I figured out this product here," and have all of them go, "Oh my gosh!" And then one of them write a newsletter about it. And
that word of mouth is killer,
like wildfire, because that's what they do. I was. From my old days of detailing cars and dealing with dealerships, Range Rovers were, at the time, most glass, when you talk to the glass installers, wholesale price was always about $150 to swap out the windshield on just about any make and model. It usually ranged maybe $25, depending on the glass, because they were all basic shapes. And I'm talking about mid-2000s, late 90s, mid-2000s in this time period. So those vehicles at that time could do it. Range Rovers at that time, wholesale price for a Range Rover windshield was $800 because of all the heating elements and everything in it. Yeah. And that was the wholesale price. So the dealerships you would see a Range Rover be taken to auction and sold to different dealerships. And as the dealerships bought it, they'd get it. They'd probably buy 10 cars, and that Range Rover was part of that 10-car pack that they bought. They'd get it, and then they'd notice the windshield was broken. And right off the bat, to them, they're like, $800 of our profit completely gone. Let's just put it back at auction. They'd send it back to auction until they finally got somebody that would buy it. But cars were being passed around because nobody wanted to replace the windshield, because the other 8 other cars, they could get new windshields for all 8 of those cars for the cost of the Range Rover windshield.
Yeah, like Range Rover windshields now, the last time I heard of one being replaced was a 2017 Range Rover Sport. I think that was the model, down in Texas. And the ticket on that came in at $4,500.
Yeah.
McLaren's, we've had one of our partners up in Vancouver almost exclusively works with McLaren of Vancouver. And he's, we had a success story of somebody that had ExoShield installed in their McLaren. A rock hit it. It was a super loud hit. It definitely 100% would have either chipped or broken. And when we found out how much the windshield was, it was $32,000.
Oh, yeah, easy. Yeah, I could easily see it on a McLaren. We had a Senna in our studio that had the diamond paint job, which was a $150,000 option.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're dealing with options that cost more than supercars.
It was like, wait, what? And they came with a $30,000 model that was 10 inches big.
It was like 1/8 scale or something. It was pretty big. Car. Yeah.
I mean, it was maybe a foot, but $30,000 for just that model. And it was one of those things where, no doubt, on $30,000 windshield, I put whatever I needed to protect it. Like,
sure. And obviously, we skew a little bit more to like the luxury and exotic market, because they've had more expensive windshields for a longer time. But now, as advanced driver assistance systems are going into Toyota Corollas, and they're windshields are now sometimes, depending on where you are, and labor rates are plus $1,000 to replace. It's becoming a product that is good for everybody, right? Which I think really separates us a lot in the market space, especially at a time like this. We've had people, I've had, partners, and I think Atinder has too, messaging us, telling us that ExoShield is actually something that's helping them keep their business alive right now, because it's a product that is not only providing a financial, benefit, but it's also safety. And right. And it's always going to be cheaper than replacing the windshield.
Yeah. Well, and it was like detailing in 2008 when the market crashed. A lot of folks started, they couldn't afford to buy a new car, or they knew they were going to be holding on to their car for a longer period of time, or the banks just weren't loaning money. So people started fixing up their cars. They started putting the money into mechanically keeping them running. They detail the car because they read an article that, hey, if you detail your car, it feels like you got a brand new car again. Ooh, I should go do that. And it was instantly, they saw that necessity to reinvest back into their vehicle instead of, we're going to keep it for 3 years, we're going to sell it. Well, now we're going to keep it for 5 years, just to extend our savings that much longer.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do that, and do something like throw ExoShield on there and, do the other stuff.
We actually do have an installer in Boise, by the way.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we
His
do.
name.
We do. It's Tint World in Boise.
Oh yeah,
Tint World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we know those guys.
They've been partnered with us for a while now. Dan is fantastic, so I'm sure if you guys gave him a call.
We know Dan. He comes in and buys towels from us and stops in all the time. So
there you go.
We love Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super, super nice guy. He has a really cool old truck that he showed me once.
He does.
Yes.
55 Chevy. It's red.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
Dan owns a number of dealerships here in Boise, and then owns Tint World. So he has, I think, 3 dealerships, and then some other property and stuff. But yeah, he ended up buying the dealership that he bought, or partnered with the dealership that was the partners that partnered with me to open my detail shop.
Wow.
Long story short, but Dan and I are good. Dan and I are good friends, so I was very excited to hear that. So that's cool. We'll have to have him. We'll have to give him a holler. So
awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
I feel like.
Go ahead, Dane.
Yeah. No. I was gonna say. Go ahead.
So you guys are working from home right now, right? Or are you doing some office time, or are you just 100% home?
100% home.
I think this is week 6 at home now.
Since March.
Yeah.
March 14th.
Lots of family bonding going on.
Yeah,
I
a lot
didn't hear
of
that.
video conferencing.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing with all this?
Good. So you guys are right outside of Montreal?
Toronto.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're both up there outside of Toronto. So how's everything been just going for you guys, other than a lot of video conferencing, being home? I know I've seen Marissa's Facebook. She's been going on a lot of dog walks, her and her dog. So, and cooking food, making food.
Lots of it.
Marissa is our resident ExoShield celebrity. She has lots of fans.
Yeah.
It's been good. Like I think we've gotten into a bit of a rhythm now. It's I definitely am excited to get back into the office once we're able to, but it's actually given us a bit of time that we never had before to start working on a lot of the partner support programs that we've been jonesing to get going on and haven't to. So ExoShield Academy was one of those things. We've got lots more stuff in the pipeline that we're super excited to announce. Thank God we have Atinder to help us with a lot of that stuff, because I definitely couldn't. I have no idea how to sell the dealerships.
That's good.
Man, good thing you're around then.
Literally, he's an angel, an actual angel.
Oh, I was going to say that this has been really great. And I just wanted to check in and make sure people knew, like, if they wanted more info, about ExoShield and all that business. When you guys want to give us a plug, feel free. Plug away. Tell us all about it. Where can people find more info?
Marissa is the plug.
All right. Plug away.
Oh, man. Okay, so if you are based in Canada or you're international outside of the USA, Atinder is actually your point of contact. You can reach him at atinder@getexoshield.com.
There you go.
I am the USA sales manager, so I manage all of the US. I am Marissa at getexoshield.com. I'm Marissa Ashley on Facebook. I'm really active there. If you're in pretty much any group, especially Window Film Revolution, you will find me there. If you can't find Atinder, find me. I'm easier to find, and I will help you.
There you go.
All right.
And we're when all this hopefully is all settled, we get you guys up here to play in our new studio with us and do some things. So
That would be sweet.
Shoot a video while trying out an install or something like that, or do something like that. It could be fun.
I mean, we've got ExoShield Academy, so we could ship you a sample. You could do it all by yourself.
That'd be super cool.
we would love to do that.
Yeah.
So
you can also find us on our socials. So Instagram is at get.exoshield, and then Facebook is just ExoShield. So we're reachable through there as well.
If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of everything that ExoShield is about, you can check out getexoshield.com. And if you want more information on becoming a partner with ExoShield, we have a quick little form you fill out, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Excellent. No, nice and straightforward. Well, guys, it's been fun. It's been really fun. I think this has been a really great podcast. And I think, as weird as Searing Summit was this year, I'm very curious how it's going to go in future years. So who knows? But we hope to see you guys there. Maybe both of you one year.
Well, we will say, Atinder, we were super bummed to find out that you weren't coming.
I know.
But Marissa made up for it in spades.
There you go.
So she was awesome and way more fun than we could have even hoped for. So and we felt like we met a fellow family member with us. So it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. So especially when you're all
honest.
So
this industry, you're always looking for people you can get along with, and it's always fun when you find people who just vibe.
It was funny because when we found out you weren't coming, like Anthony literally almost started crying. Like he was so
it was
who am I gonna make a Bumble jokes to?
Yeah, he was just so he was like, what? Oh,
there was just a serious lack of ice cold Modelo's.
There was just a hollowness.
I'm like, where's the Tinder with the ice cold Modelo's that he had in his room, because it's just not the same thing. And we went out and bought all this. I think we were drinking Coors or something. It just wasn't the same.
Oh man.
But like I said, Marissa made up for it. So it was a lot of fun having her there and being able to hang out with her. So it was great. So you guys are an awesome duo. And those of you guys listening, you won't meet a nicer pair of folks in the industry, I think. And we definitely need to do more stuff with you guys. Sure. So
we'll find a way to get you guys down here. Yeah.
Once the borders open up.
Yeah.
Well, we got to work on that first.
Canada.
I'm not
whenever that happens.
I'm not sure how comfortable I'd fit into a shipping crate. So
I don't know. You get
it's not for
pretty nice houses now.
Yeah. Everything's cheap now, so
super cheap. Besides shipping rates, those are not cheap.
Yeah. Well, no, that part's not. Can't blame it on fuel prices though now. At any rate, I think this is the part where we wrap up. But guys, thank you so much. Glad we got the plugs in. I will include links to all the things you guys mentioned in the description below on the video, so folks have an easy time finding it. And if they're looking for you, I know they can bounce onto Facebook, find you guys, ask questions, and you guys are open book, so it's really great. So thank you again.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And until next time, this is us saying adios.
See ya.
Bye.
Yes.